So today was the big day, man. Today was day two of the Diddy trial, and I must say, it was emotional. It was also just sad. You know what I mean? You see Cassie on the stand, and she's pregnant. She cried a couple of times on the stand by a lot of questions the prosecutor asked her and stuff like that. You know, Cassie is Diddy's ex girlfriend. They've been together for like what 10 years now, and now we kind of finally, um, not really hearing from her, but just her testimony from blog sites and news people that was outside and some news reporters and stuff that was inside, and they just kind of come out and give they what they heard from Cassie or whatever because they was inside the courtroom. And I must say, they really said some things that Cassie was really explaining the freakouts, man. And it was a situations that like, wow, we did not know it was like that. You know what I'm saying? Day one was crazy, but day two was kind of crazy too. Because she was really explaining everything from how they got the escorts, where they got them from, the money wise, and also, she got urinated on. You know what I'm saying? Like yesterday, the male escort said that Cassie applied that he do that. You know what I'm saying? That he urinated on her. She applied that. And today she said she didn't want it to be urinated on. So it's kind of like, who's kind of telling the truth? But this is the male escort. He's on oath. You know what I'm saying? So situation is crazy, man. But let's look at TMZ and see what they say about it and go from there. So it says, Cassie, my first freak off, so much baby oil, and I was glistening. Wow. That's crazy, man. Cassie is one, she's a very beautiful woman. She's about to have a third kid, and like I said, she's beautiful. Not gonna lie to you. So it's kind of crazy, man. When she met Diddy, she was young. She was very young. You know what I mean? Cassie was recalling her first freak off and says she says drugs, alcohol, and a bunch of baby oil was involved. She said Diddy brought up voyeurism at some point in their first year together, and she was 22 years old when she agreed to her first freak off, telling the jury she agreed because she wanted to make him happy. And voyeurism is I guess in like Diddy like seeing other men mess with his woman. You know what I mean? Also like role play and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Just seeing other men mess with your girlfriend. Crazy. Never heard that word before, so I had to look it up. You know what I'm saying? Cassie says the freak up happened at one of Diddy houses in Los Angeles where a male escort was paid to dance and have sex with her. She testified that she took ecstasy and drank alcohol before the freak off and said it was Diddy's idea to disguise themselves. So she wore a masquerade mask. Wow. So yeah, that's what I said yesterday on one of my videos that Diddy would like dress up or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I figured it was like some type of role play they had going on. You know what I mean? It's crazy, man. Look at that, man. Wow. Diddy's like 50 something years old right now, and she's about 28, 30, something like that. Crazy situation, man. This is crazy. And look, they got the baby, y'all. They got the baby, y'all. But I see what these guys say right quick.
Is still on the stand testifying, and some of what she got into here, we will give you a warning. It is.
So that's what Cassie wore today. Brown dress. You know what I'm saying? She's covered up a little bit because, like I said, she's pregnant.
Got into here. We will give you a warning. It is a very vivid description of something that happened during at least one of the freak offs.
And this came up in opening statements. And this has to do, and again, if you're going to be offended by this, if you're squeamish, you don't want to hear this. But this, the prosecutors brought this up, that the sex worker, they said, urinated on Cassie during these freak offs. What Cassie testified is it was more than
it was
sex worker. It was Diddy.
Diddy as well.
In addition.
Right. The prosecutor says, did you want to be urinated on?
I didn't want anyone to urinate on me, she says. And then how often did it happen? She says, often enough.
And she says it was disgusting. It was too much. I choked. No one could think I wanted it. Why were you choking? It was too much urine in my mouth. Who else urinated on you? Sean.
Yo, Every time, that's crazy. I heard it yesterday, and today it sounds even crazier. Like you getting urinated in your mouth. What type of diabolical, sexual, freaky stuff is that? You got pee in your mouth. That's crazy. That is crazy, man. Like I know there's some freaky people in the world, but damn, I ain't know it like that. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, man.
Did you want him to urinate on you? I didn't want anyone to urinate on me.
Then it gets interesting. The prosecutor says, why didn't you say no? Presumably before that, she had said she never said it. And she says, it was obvious I didn't want to be on the ground being urinated on by two men.
I think that's the key testimony here. We talked about yesterday that the prosecutors teased this idea of urination being so far outside of the norm that no one would consent to it that was rational or a reasonable person. That's what she's saying on the stand. Of course, I didn't want to be urinated on by two men. So don't say this was part of our consensual relationship.
What the defense, I think, is going to do, and I'm just guessing here, is they are going to say that there is a community where stuff like this happens.
Yes.
And so it's not something that automatically is forced, and they're going to probably call somebody to the stand to address it. So if they do it, and I have no idea if they are, but if they do, then the question is she tolerating it? Because it's gross.
Correct.
I get it. I understand it.
No, look, and honestly, I'm totally not here to yuck anybody's yum. What you're into,
Right.
It's consensual, great. But I'm just saying that I believe that for most of the jury, that is a very vivid.
It's vivid, but
description that will.
Charles, it's vivid, but they are going to. I've seen juries. Now, I don't know whether this jury is going to do it, but they are ultimately going to look at force and coercion. And now the question is, she's saying, in my head, yes, of course I was. But then some juror says, did he ever direct her, order her, force her? Did she ever say that? You know that discussion is going to go on. I don't know how they're going to come out, but they're going to have that discussion.
Yeah, that is one thing that they trying to really get him on. You know what I mean? It's like they have to show, like, did he like actually force you to, you know what I'm saying, get urinated on? You know what I'm saying? Your mouth. Like, you don't do it, I'm gonna kill you, or you better do this type. You know what I mean? And like I say yesterday, the male escort that was on trial, he said that Cassie told him, I want to be urinating on me, and this is how you do it. So, I mean, she literally saying, I want this. So now today she's saying she didn't want to be urinating. All right, so let's go to some tweets that there was a lawyer that was inside the courtroom, and almost everything the prosecutor was asking Cassie, she, you know what I mean, she answered it with us. So everything that was going on, he got it down on Twitter. So this is a guy right here, man. His Twitter name is Inner City Press. And like yesterday, he was in the courtroom and he's detailing everything that was asked from the prosecutor and Cassie, and she answered. I'm not going to read everything, but I'm going to read some stuff that she said, you know what I'm saying? That and what was going on during the freak offs. Let's see. Cassie's 38 now. Her and Sean dated for 10 years. Did they get in arguments? Yes, they got in arguments. Stumped down. Okay. She stumped me in the head if I was down. How frequently was he violent? Too frequently, I would get black eyes and bruises. Wow. Let's see. Let me show you a video. So I guess the video was when he saw the elevator. Everybody's seen that when Sean Diddy grabbed Cassie, throw her on the ground, kick her. Let me see. How do you feel when he first asked for it? Okay, let me see. Go back up here. Let me show you a video. LA lobby. Where is this? Okay. What does that entail? The hiring of an escort, setting it up. Okay. How do you feel when he first asked you for it? Confused, nervous. I wanted to make him happy. The attorney said, did you agree to one when he first proposed one? Cassie said, yes. Then there were more. It wasn't something I wanted to do, at least not that frequently. So she agreed to do it one time. Then Diddy continued had it going on. You know what I mean? Let me see. I didn't know what. Okay, I didn't know. She said. Cassie said, "I didn't know what no could turn into." The attorney said, "What do you mean?" Cassie said, "Making him angry." The attorney said, "Ask, what were you afraid would happen if you said no?" Cassie said, "Through time, he had blackmail materials." Oh wow. The, the prosecutor said, "What did you give the government?" Laptops. The prosecutor said, "I've handed up GXB. Do you recognize it?" Cassie said, "Yes, I reviewed this drive. It has communication and documents pertaining to Mr. Combs." Prosecutor said, "Did you review the photos on it?" Cassie said, "Yes." The attorney, prosecutor said, "What's this photo?" Me and Twin. So I'm guessing she showed her a photo. So, okay, this is interesting right here. So Cassie had documents. So Cassie had documents that, I mean, communication documents pertaining to Mr. Combs. So this is interesting. So she holds some stuff that they was, what I'm saying, like they ain't saw each other for like 6 years because they stopped talking, I think 2017 to 18, something like that. So she holds some stuff. So she was about to blackmail Diddy, basically. Let me see. When did she sign the Bad Boy Records? She signed in 2006. It was a 10 album deal. Damn. I didn't know artists sign not album, but like record deals like that. You gotta have a 10 album. Dang, that's crazy. Sheesh. Let me see what else. Let me see what else. What else? Okay. What is the age difference between her and Sean? Sean Diddy, 17 years. So Sean was 17. Man, P Diddy was 17 years older than her. That's crazy. What else? Okay. Prosecutor asked, "How did you take ecstasy unintentionally?" She said it was in a Gatorade. When you took it intentionally with Sean, how did it feel? Like rolling at the time. What did you think? Cassie said that we were spending a lot of time together. And they took all type of drugs. What else? What was his lifestyle like? He had all these assistants. He could get things done. He traveled quite a bit. The prosecutor said, "What's his photo?" So I'm guessing she's showing Sean. She's showing Cassie another photo. Sean and I at a strip club in New York, like 2007, 2008, Halloween. Okay. What else? What else? I don't want to read everything. What I mean? I'm trying to read the good parts. I mean, they all good, but I mean, I'm trying to read really, really good parts. Uh, Cassie said, the freak offs became a job. There was no time to do anything else but do them, then try to recover. Prosecutor said, how much time in your week will freak offs take? Cassie said, the longest was 4 days, significant periods of time. Damn, 4 days? Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Like they was having sex like that, like straight 4 days? Wow, that is crazy. Damn, what else? The prosecutor asked, how did you make money if your records weren't being released? Cassie said, I did hosting parties when Sean approved them. Okay. Prosecutor asked, how did you like your nails, Victoria? Cassie said, white, French tip. Prosecutor said, hair, it varied. I shaved my head in 2009. Yeah. I remember that. I remember Cassie shaved the side of her head. And I thought that was like a style or something she wanted to do because I think a lot of people had that, but I think it was something else. Your body. Cassie said, he told me to work out, prepare for the frill. She said, did he told her to work out and prepare for the freak offs? Oh my goodness, that's crazy. That's crazy because they're gonna be having so much sex. Diddy wanted her to be in top shape, top notch shape, man. You know what I'm saying? Because they be having sex like for hours and hours. And not one escort, maybe two escorts. You know what I mean? It's crazy, yo. What else? What else? Let me see. What else? Okay, do you know his name? She said no. Prosecutor said, I called him the first escort. Were you aware he was paid? Cassie said yes, to dance and to have intercourse with me. Prosecutor asked, what drugs did you take? Cassie said ecstasy and alcohol before things started. So they really been taking a lot of drugs before they really started having sex. Prosecutor asked, did you disguise your appearance? Cassie said, Sean said we would disguise ourselves. I wore a masquerade mask. What was a session in a freak off until the escort finished? Cassie, the prosecutor asked, how many sessions with the first escort? Cassie said at least two. Oh, okay. What else? The prosecutor asked, do you recall all of the freak offs? Cassie said that would be impossible. Damn. The prosecutor asked, did you want to stop? Cassie asked, yes, I was humiliated. I didn't have those words then. I couldn't talk to anyone about it. Prosecutor asked, did you tell him you didn't want to? Cassie said, yes. Cassie said, I brought it up gently. I didn't want him to just do it with somebody else. Now, keep this in mind right here now. Keep this in mind right here. Cassie said, I brought it up gently. I didn't want to just do it. Hold on. Cassie said, I brought it up gently. I didn't want him to just do it with someone else. Were you able to express your concerns to him? Defense said objection, leading. Judge said rephrase. Prosecutor asked, why would you talk to him gently? Cassie said, I didn't want him to be angry. Now, I said, keep this in mind because I'm thinking just about yesterday also that she had times that she could have leave. You know what I'm saying? And stop doing the freak offs. But she said she didn't want Diddy to do it with anybody else. So I'm thinking, was that like you didn't want to stop because you love him and you don't want him to do it with nobody else? So that wasn't like him coercing you or forcing you to do it. You wanted to do it because you had love for him. I can understand that, but it's like it wasn't forced. Man, y'all tell me in the chat, man, if I'm wrong. Let me see what else. What else? What else? What else? Okay, this is some of the stuff they had. What supplies for freak offs? Cassie said Astroglide, baby oil, condoms. Said yesterday I thought they didn't use no condoms. The prosecutor said, who brought the supplies? Cassie said the security, Sean's assistant. Prosecutor said, which brand of baby oil? Cassie said Johnson's, Johnson and Johnson's. Prosecutor said, how was it used? Cassie said, Sean said, you need to be glistening. Damn, he wants you to baby. I mean, all up. Wow, that's crazy. Look at what else? What else? Any other use? Okay, so this is what I said earlier about the prosecutor asked Cassie, did you want to be urinated on? Defense said objection. Judge said grounds. Defense asked and answered. Judge said overrule. Cassie said no, I did not want it. Prosecutor said, how did it feel? Cassie said, it was disgusting. It was too much. I choked. No one could think I wanted it. Wow. Okay. The prosecutor said, why were you choking? Cassie said, too much urine in my mouth. Oh my God. Too much urine in my mouth. Wow. The prosecutor said, who else urinated on you? Cassie said, Diddy. Damn. I know the male escort did it. Male escort did it, but I didn't know Diddy did it also. So they both was like standing in front of her and urinating her while she lay down. Like, that's crazy. What the? Prosecutor said, "Did you want Sean to urinate on you?" Cassie said, "I didn't want anyone to urinate on me." Prosecutor said, "How often did it happen?" Cassie said, "Often enough." Damn, so this happened more than one time. That's crazy. That's crazy. Mm-mm-mm. What else? Do you use drugs at every freak off? Cat said yes. I need to disassociate and become emotionless. Wow, you know what? That's seeing that right there, man. Emotionless. That's real sad. That's like she basically like just take the drugs to be numb, to be numb, having all these sex with these people and Diddy at the same time. You know what I'm saying? She just became so numb and got so used to taking the drugs and stuff, man. She became emotionless. What else? Who else used drugs at freak offs? She said Diddy and sometimes the escort. What other drugs did you use? Cassie said Special K, GHB, and mushrooms. Wow, some crazy drugs right there. Prosecutor said, "Why do you take more drugs?" Cassie answered, "To not be present with the experience." Damn. Prosecutor said, "Why?" Cassie said, "Because it was something I hated." Prosecutor asked, "How did you react to ecstasy and MDMA?" Cassie said, "It could make me vomit." Damn. Prosecutor said, "What would he say?" Cassie said, "To continue." Oh my goodness. So after she was vomiting up and stuff, Diddy would tell her to hurry up and vomit and come back and finish. Yo, this guy is crazy, yo. She said, prosecutor said, "Do you want to continue to have intercourse where you wanted to vomit?" Cassie said, "No." Prosecutor said, "How does GHB make you feel?" Cassie said, "Drunk and tipsy." Prosecutor said, "Cocaine." Cassie said, "Makes my heart race. I'm not a huge fan." Of course, who the F would be a fan of taking them type of drugs? Prosecutor said, "Mushrooms." Cassie said, "The walls come alive." Damn. I heard of mushroom and cocaine, but I never heard of GHB. Damn, man, this is getting crazy, man. This listen, this is getting crazy, and I'm so mad. I'm not mad, but like, I want the cameras to be in it, man, because I want to see everybody facial expressions, man. Especially Diddy. I really want to see his facial expressions while Cassie is explaining everything, what happened. You know what I mean? All right, what else? Okay, 4 p.m. Cassie Badger. Okay. Okay, the prosecutor said, "What would happen if the escort finished on you?" Cassie said Sean would want it put on his body in the next room. Hold on, what? Hold on. Let me read that again. The prosecutor asked Cassie, "What would happen after the escort finishes on you?" Cassie said Sean would want it put on his body in the next room. So Diddy would want a man's semen put on him? Prosecutor, did you do that? Cassie said, "I did." Prosecutor said, "Where?" Cassie said, "Use it on his nipples." Oh my goodness. Yo, that's crazy. The prosecutor said, "Did you want to do that?" Cassie said, "No." Oh my goodness. So did he would want a man's semen put on his body, rubbed on his body? So I'm thinking, was Diddy really gay? Because it was, you know what I'm saying, throughout this yesterday, it was, you know, the male escort was having sex with Cassie, and Diddy came and joined in, and I think the male escort kind of looked at Diddy, and Diddy was like, "Yo, what you doing? Don't look at me." You know what I'm saying? What are you thinking? Like, so I'm thinking, okay, well, Diddy ain't gay. He just like he just like having mess with Cassie while somebody else messing with her, and also like looking at it while somebody else messing with her. So he's not gay. But this right here is crazy. So this right here is wow. Wow. Usually on his nipples. Oh my goodness, man. Oh my goodness. Prosecutor asked, "How do you feel?" Cassie said, I was an object being heavily justified by men. Sometimes he would watch by FaceTime." Prosecutor said, "Were some sessions recorded on your devices?" Cassie said, "Because they were there." Prosecutor said, "If you saw them on your device, what would you do?" She said she would delete them. Wow. All right, it was on breaking stuff. I'm trying to really get to the really good part. I don't want to read everything, you know what I mean? As I scroll, I know y'all kind of can like read on your own, but I want to, get to the good thing. Okay. The prosecutor said, ask, did you ever leave a freak off before it was open? Cassie said, yes, at the Central City Intercontinental. I finally had a premiere coming up and I didn't want to mess it up, but Sean hit me. Damn. Prosecutor said, at what point did Sean hit you? Cassie said, between sessions. That's crazy. Prosecutor asked, what happened next? Cassie said, I got to the elevator. Next thing I knew, I was thrown to the ground. Prosecutor said, who threw you down? Cassie said, Sean. He grabbed me by the neck and my hoodie. So I guess that's when the video happened right there. That's the video everybody's seen over the world. That when he beat Cassie up when she about to get on the elevator. All right, take another break. Where's the fifth? When's the fifth wake up? That's funny. That's crazy, man. Wow. So far, man, Cassie was on the stand today. Day 2 of the trial. Day 3 is tomorrow. The prosecutors on her side going to continue to ask her questions. So the defense, man, they kind of got a lot to work with. You know what I mean? Because I say that because, like, yes, Cassie was on the stand crying. She was explaining everything that was going on, detail to detail, and it's like he beat you. Y'all had a lot of sex. Y'all was taking drugs. You hired some escorts and stuff like that. But again, he's not on trial for this. He's not on trial for the abuse, drugs, what I'm saying, having sex with different people. Like, he's not on trial for none of that. So I'm kind of, I guess the prosecutor's trying to paint a picture of this violent guy, this violent guy, and he hold women hostage and stuff like that. Because during the freak offs, nobody could leave. So I'm guessing that's what the prosecutor's kind of leading up to. So I really want to see what the defense gonna say, man. You know what I mean? Because this is having Cassie on the stand and saying all this right here, man. It's sad, especially like I say before all of this started. Cassie's pregnant. You know what I'm saying? She's a beautiful woman. She's pregnant on the stand. She's crying. The optics of this, man, it looks real, real bad. And also that video they seen that Cassie getting beat up, even though she wasn't pregnant at the time, but that video she getting beat up. It doesn't look good, but then again, it's like I say, he's not on trial for this right here. You really have to prove that was he sex trafficking. You know what I'm saying? Like, most of this stuff are coerced, So I don't know, man. It's gonna be crazy, but day 3 is tomorrow. We really have to see, like I say, it's like 8 more weeks of this right here, and the prosecutors, man, they doing what they have to do to really prove that Diddy is a bad man. He's a violent man. He coerced women, he trafficked women, drugged them, and all type of stuff. And the defense, they gotta really put in some work. But that's all I got for now, man. Y'all tell me what y'all think, man, about day 2, man. Y'all think Cassie kind of really nailed it and like really show everybody like, okay, yeah, he's a dumpster. You know what I'm saying? He just a bad person, and he used Cassie. You know what I'm saying? And he just brainwashed Cassie. Tell me what y'all think in the comments, man.